Apple has updated the iPad Air M3 as the iPad for most, and after spending some time with it, I can really see why, because it's a great blend of power and practicality, and it sits comfortably between the base iPad and the iPad Pro. So in this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know about the M3 iPad Air, from the performance you can expect out of it, to the design, who it's perfect for, and who I think should look for a nicer iPad, a lesser iPad, or potentially even getting a MacBook instead. When I first got this out of the box, I was really impressed with the design because it just has that sleek, flat Apple look to it. And it's just got the single camera on the back, which is fine to me. I don't use my iPad as a camera. Then on the back, of course, there's also the smart connector. You get a single USB-C port on it as well. And then on the front of it, Apple has finally updated the camera placement on the iPad Air to be in the center. The new landscape front camera is just a lot more natural for using with video calling because you can just look right at the top middle of the screen instead of looking off to the side and trying to still look at the person at the same time. So I think this was a really great move by Apple to include this in the iPad Air M3. The iPad Air can handle pretty much any of your day-to-day tasks with it. From watching videos, looking up recipes, typing notes, answering emails, this thing can handle it all. And I think that's the allure of the iPad, is the versatility that you get with it, because it's a little bit sleeker and more tactile than using a laptop. And that's where I would go for an iPad over a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro if you really just want to have a sleek and minimal device that you can really focus in on whatever task you're doing. I also really love all the different color options that Apple's picked out. There's the space gray, the sky blue, the purple, and you can also get starlight as well. And I chose to get the starlight color. I've also been very happy with the display quality on the iPad Air. It's sharp, bright, and offers great color reproduction. It doesn't have ProMotion like the iPad Pro, so it's not going to be able to adjust the refresh rate dynamically. But I honestly haven't missed it much because the 60 Hz refresh rate is still perfectly fine for most tasks. One thing I do miss about this when you compare it to the iPad Pro is the extra brightness that the iPad Pro screen has. And the ability to get the nano texture option on the iPad Pro is also a great option. This does still have an anti-reflective coating that works pretty well, but it's not going to be quite as effective as the nano texture option. The screen is supposed to be fingerprint resistant, but I have not noticed that at all. I still notice plenty of fingerprints on the screen. This does still have the P3 wide color gamut, just like the iPad Pro, which is going to be great for photo and video editing. And it also has True Tone technology, so it can use the camera on the front of it to adjust the display's color temperature to the ambient lighting of the room, which makes it a little bit easier on the eyes. So the main reason you get the M3 iPad Air is because of the updates that they've continued to put in the iPad Air. It makes it almost as good of an option as the iPad Pro. The thing that I found to be a little bit confusing about this, but also makes plenty of sense, is the fact that they went with the M3 chip instead of the M4 in the iPad Air, because this is basically like last year's MacBook Air in tablet form. And benchmarks show that this is a huge leap over the A16 chip from previous generations in terms of the performance you're going to get out of it. But I think it would have made a little bit more sense if Apple would have gone ahead and put the M4 on it, just so all their branding could be completely M4 rated for every different device that they have out. I love to use Stage Manager on this, and it works great for resizing your windows and moving them around. The split view is also very smooth as well. So the iPad Air does great with multitasking, and the 8 GB of RAM is the same as the base iPad Pro, which is a really nice feature that they made the same across the board. You have to get a 1 or 2 terabyte storage model on the iPad Pro if you want to be able to jump up on the RAM. The thing that drives me crazy about the iPad Air is there's no Face ID on it, because I've got used to this over the years with different iPad Pro models, and every time I try to unlock it with Face ID and it tells me to use Touch ID, it just gets kind of annoying to reach up and press the Touch ID button on the side. Especially if you're turning the iPad in different orientations, you got to find the Touch ID button. So I wish that Apple could have put Face ID in the Air model as well. The M3 GPU is great, and you also get the same AV1 media engine as the iPad Pro models, which is a great addition, because if you're going to use this for any sort of video content or video exporting, it's going to perform just as well as the iPad Pro. The nice thing about the M3 chip is this is going to enable Apple Intelligence features, which are still evolving, but they show promise for the future. But this is a key differentiator if you get this model versus the A16 model, because the A16 or the new iPad is not going to support Apple Intelligence. So that's one reason to step up from the iPad all the way to the M3 iPad Air. We've touched on Stage Manager a little bit. I've really been loving Stage Manager and using that to multitask, so I can be researching things and have multiple windows up at the same time, which feels kind of Mac-like, but it's not going to be all the way up into Mac territory. But if you use this with an external display and use Stage Manager, that's going to be a great option for productivity so that you can move your windows around and turns your iPad Air into a powerful workstation. Let's talk accessories. The iPad Air has a couple different official Apple accessories you can get. Like, you can get the Magic Keyboard, which to me is a must-buy for anyone who wants to use the iPad Air almost as a laptop replacement. The typing experience on the Magic Keyboard is very smooth, and the trackpad is also smooth and responsive as well. The biggest downside to the Magic Keyboard is it's only available in white for the iPad Air, and you have to get this newer version. So that's a frustrating limitation if you prefer the darker look of the black case. You can also get either the Apple Pencil Pro or the USB-C Apple Pencil if you want to do note-taking or drawing or creative work with this. You can't use the older Apple Pencil with this, but the Apple Pencil Pro is going to add some haptic feedback and some barrel rolling features with it. But for most people, I'd say just get the USB-C Apple Pencil if you want a pencil to use with this. Unfortunately, if you add these accessories, you're going to be significantly increasing the cost of the iPad Air M3. The starting price of $600 for 128 gigabytes is okay, but once you add the Magic Keyboard and an Apple Pencil, then you're going to be getting close to $1,000. And a lot of users who choose to get those accessories are also going to be interested in getting the 256 gigabyte version instead. I really wish Apple had made the starting storage option on the iPad Air 256 gigabytes, because I think that would make it feel a little bit more professional than just being limited to the 128 gigabytes. Because if you start to think about upgrading the storage, then you're getting a little bit closer to the iPad Pro pricing. But we're going to keep talking about the features on this and what's different from this in the iPad Pro. This does have a USB-C port, but in Apple fashion, it's not going to be the fastest possible speeds. It supports USB 3.1 Gen 2 or DisplayPort, which is going to be great for connecting to external displays, but the lack of Thunderbolt or USB 4 support is too bad, because that would give you even faster transfer speeds and more versatile connectivity to keep more devices charged. But the wireless on this is great. You get Wi-Fi 6E, and it also has Bluetooth 5.3, which is going to be fantastic for using with other wireless accessories. Let's talk more about some of the hardware. The front-facing camera is great for video calls. I love the landscape orientation of it and the fact that it's in the center now. The image quality on it is pretty great. I personally haven't used the rear camera much on an iPad, so I don't miss the advanced camera system of the iPad Pro. But if you're someone who uses your iPad for photography, then you're going to appreciate the better cameras on the iPad Pro. One area where this is a little bit lacking is the speakers on it are not as impressive as the ones on the iPad Pro. And even if you've had an older iPad Pro model, you might be a little underwhelmed by this, because there's only 2 speakers on this, unlike the 4 speaker system that the iPad Pro has. So it's missing a little bit of depth and bass when you compare it to the iPad Pro. For casual listening or for video watching, it's going to be fine. But if you want a more immersive audio experience, you're going to want to use headphones with this instead. The battery life on this is okay, but if you're used to using a MacBook Air, then you're not going to be happy with the battery life on this, because you're going to see it going down faster. So you may have to recharge this during a heavy day's use. So who is the M3 iPad Air for? This is for students, creatives, or professionals who want a powerful and versatile tablet. It's really great for note-taking, drawing. You can use it for some video editing, but I really like this for multitasking and research projects. If you want a device that can handle productivity and also entertainment due to the high-quality screen, the M3 iPad Air is going to be a great choice. If you got an older iPad, especially with the A-series chip, this is going to be a great upgrade for you. But if you have an iPad Pro from the past, or if you've already got an iPad Air M2, then there's really no need to buy this. So the standard iPad now comes in 3 different series. You can get the standard A16, the M3 Air, or you can get the M4 iPad Pro. So which one should you choose? If you're just looking to get into the world of iPads, and if you're on a really tight budget and you don't need the extra power or the Apple Intelligence features that the M3 has, then the base iPad or maybe even the iPad mini might be a better fit for you. But if you're looking for better features like being able to use the Magic Keyboard, better multitasking due to the M3 chip, then that's when the iPad Air M3 is going to be a great option for you. But if you really need to have the brighter screen, the ability to get the nano texture options, or if you're wanting to use the iPad Pro for even more creative work, that's when you should probably look into buying the iPad Pro instead. Just know it is going to come at a higher cost. The iPad Air M3 is available with either the 11-inch or the 13-inch display. If you choose to get the 13-inch display, then the price does go up by $200, which is pretty standard for Apple in terms of getting a bigger screen and spending a little bit more money. So there's really just a couple drawbacks to the M3 iPad Air. First, I would have really loved to see Apple put the M4 chip in it. Second, I think that the Magic Keyboard still is a little bit too much money, and the iPad Air version of it does not support backlighting, which is kind of a letdown for something that's this expensive. Also, I think Touch ID would make a lot of sense to have on the keyboard as well. And then they could have had it in the black color as well. I just think some people are going to prefer the black Magic Keyboard to the white one. Finally, I think that instead of Touch ID, I would prefer this have Face ID, because if you're going to use this like a laptop, it's really annoying to reach up from the keyboard to use the Touch ID button on the side of it. If they would have put a Touch ID button on the Magic Keyboard, that could have helped justify the expensive price tag of it. So to me, the main omission that's been annoying to me is the lack of Face ID. And last, I think they should have put 256 gigabytes as the starting storage size for an iPad Air, because if you decide to go ahead and get the 128, that's going to push you a little bit closer to the Pro territory, in which case you might consider getting the Pro instead of the Air. So to tie it all together, I still think the M3 iPad Air is a great all-around iPad with a great balance of power, features, and price. It's the iPad for most people, which gives you the premium experience without having the top-of-the-line price of the Pro. If you're interested in buying the iPad Air M3, I do have links to buy in the description below. If you got any questions about this, leave a comment. Love to hear them. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content.